Hi everyone, welcome to my video about how to practice scales. So everyone that learns an instrument learns scales to some capacity, but a lot of us don't know why we're learning them and don't know how to get the most out of our scales and how to best practice our scales. So in this video, I'm going to go through a big list that I've put together of different ways you can practice scales and different tips for practicing scales. I've separated these tips and exercises into three categories, being easy, medium, and hard. That doesn't mean that if you're a beginner you can't try some of the medium or harder exercises. It just means that they're going to be harder for you to play. And they're going to dig a little deeper into scales and how we can practice them. I originally had one video for all of these exercises, but I've decided to separate them into three parts. So that's easy, medium, and hard exercises. This video will cover the easy tips and exercises, but these are all important fundamentals that students of all levels should make sure that they're really confident with. My first main tip for learning scales is to learn scales that are relevant to you. A lot of the time we learn prescribed scales, whether that's prescribed from our teacher or maybe from a music exam, and they're not always relevant to what we're learning in our lessons or what songs we're learning. If you're learning a lot of rock pieces, a pentatonic scale is going to be really good, but a harmonic minor scale probably isn't a scale that you need to be learning. You can learn that scale when you're learning music that incorporates that scale. That's the point of scales, and that's something that's easily missed sometimes. Alright, so this next one is very important for beginner students, and it's something that beginner students often have a little bit of trouble with or forget to really pay attention to, and that's using the correct fingers for the scale. So on guitar we have something called the 1 finger per fret rule. So if I'm playing a basic C major scale in first position or open position, any note that's on first fret, I'm going to use my first finger. Any note that's on second fret, I'm going to use my second finger, third fret, third finger, and fourth fret, fourth finger. So this rule can be applied to most scales in any position. It's just going to change which finger is allocated to which fret across whatever group of frets. So back to the C major scale in open position, I would play it like this. So you can see when I'm playing that scale, I started on my third finger on the third fret, and then later on we had some second fret notes, so I moved to my second finger, and then right at the top there we had a first fret note, so I used my first finger. So this is really important at every level, that we work out which fingers need to be used where. In some cases, and depending on your level, that's going to be more obvious, and other times it might not be. But it's something we want to really take the time to get right, because it's really going to help our technique when we're playing these scales. So the next tip is playing with a metronome. So a metronome is simply something that clicks in time. It sets a beat in a very, very simple way, or a tempo, we could say. So playing to a metronome helps us with our timing and our rhythm to make sure that that's really tight and really accurate. And it also helps us to measure our improvement as far as how fast we can play a scale. So here's an example of how I would play the C major scale to a metronome. So that was playing to the metronome in crotchets, so that's playing on every beat or every click of the metronome. But we can also play in quavers or other subdivisions. So I'll give you an example of how to play along in quavers. So you probably noticed that seemed kind of fast. If you're a beginner playing the C major scale, set your metronome to a nice slow tempo that you can play along to easily. Then once you're feeling really comfortable at that tempo, then you can bring up your metronome to maybe 10 BPM faster than what you were doing to start with. Maybe only 5 BPM faster. See how that goes. Make sure you're comfortable at playing at that tempo before you adjust it up faster again. Another alternative to playing to a metronome that can be a little bit more fun is to find a backing track in the key of whatever scale you're playing and play along to that backing track. It means you can hear the notes of the scale in context with the key, so that's really helpful. And it does make things a little bit more fun because you've got a band that you're playing along to than just a clicking metronome. The only downside of playing to a backing track is it's harder to incrementally adjust that speed or the tempo that you're playing along to, but still a really good way to practice. Once you've got the hang of your scale playing in your left hand or your fretting hand, we can start to pay a little bit more attention to our right hand. And that means bringing in alternate picking. So especially for you beginners, you may have started your scales and your guitar playing in general by only playing down picking. So that's picking the string in a downwards direction rather than upwards direction. So when we're playing our scale, we can play alternate picking where we're playing down, up, up. Like that. So an example of that with the C major scale. So when you're playing alternate picking, you want to make sure that it's really consistent down, up, up. We don't want down, up, down, or anything like that. Trying to keep it really, really consistent. That can be tricky when you're changing across the strings in uneven numbers of notes per string, but that's the aim of the game. To gradually work your way into alternate picking, something you could do is play every note of the scale twice, so playing it down and up. So we call this double picking because we're doubling the number of times we pick every note. So that would be like this. So we've done crotchets and we've done quavers and we've done double picking. Now we could add some rhythm to each note using crotchets and quavers. So it could be something like this. Whatever rhythms that you're comfortable writing out for yourself, write those out and try to play them with your scale. So it could be playing the rhythm over every note like that, or it could be something like this. It's up to you how you want to do it, but it just gets you thinking about rhythms along with playing your scale, because once we're actually playing songs, that's what we're doing. We're playing notes from the scale and we're playing different rhythms. There's not too many songs where it's just crotchets or just quavers.